Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. Okay, so I haven't done a unhinged recap on this channel before, and I've decided that today is the day, okay? I am obsessed with True Blood. Like, my blood bleeds True Blood. I love True Blood so much. I've watched the show 3 times now, and I've decided I need to do a recap. So this is gonna be a unhinged recap of True Blood, the entirety of season 1. I was gonna do season 1 and 2, but honestly, so much happens in season 2, I couldn't combine them, so this is just season 1. Let's get into it. This show takes place in a world where vampires have come out of the coffin. Basically, they live amongst humans. They're just like, they're seen as another race. They're citizens, they pay taxes, they run businesses. Okay, so they're just like another type of human. True Blood was created, which is like a synthetic blood, and that's why they were able to come out of the coffin, because now vampires can survive on the synthetically made blood and not feed on humans, so they can, what they call, mainstream into society. It also takes place in Louisiana, so it's misty and southern and just overall fun. Like, I love when a show is set in Louisiana, so it takes place in Louisiana. In the first episode, we meet our first character, Sookie Stackhouse. She's a waitress at Merlotte's Grill, or like Merlotte's like bar diner style place. She's a waitress at Merlotte's who we quickly find out can also read people's minds. Like, she can hear their thoughts, any person's thoughts, she can just hear them, and it's not something that she can control. It's just they kind of flood her mind. Sometimes she can block it out, but most of the time she can hear everybody's thoughts all the time. Then there's Tara, Sookie's best friend since they were little. Their friendship dynamic is like Sookie is sunshine and bubbly, and Tara is like mean, basically. Then there's Sam Merlotte's, which is the owner of Merlotte's, and also he has a huge crush on Sookie, and just like the way that he watches her when she's waitressing, he's just like, he's whipped, okay? He has a huge crush on her. Arlene is another waitress at Merlotte's, and she is hilarious, okay? She has red hair. She does not like vampires, but she's very, very funny in my opinion. I think she's funny. I'm always laughing when Arlene's on screen, so I think she's funny. Another very funny character and one of my favorite characters is Lafayette, which also happens to be Tara's cousin. He also works at Merlotte's as a cook. Then we meet Jason Stackhouse, which is Sookie's older brother by a few years, and we meet him by a very explicit scene that he's in with a girl named Maudette Pickens. And in this scene, he finds out that Maudette has been sleeping with vampires and recording it, which ew, but also, anyway, I'm not gonna yuck anyone's yum, but he finds out that Maudette sleeps with vampires, and this is important, okay, because she films her conquests, and he's sleeping with her, so obviously she films it, okay? But keep this in mind because it's an important, like, fact for later. Back at Merlotte's, Sam is flirting with Sookie, and then a mysterious man walks into Merlotte's and slides his cold into one of the booths, okay? Right off the bat, Sookie's excited because it's Bontemps' like first vampire, essentially, like at least as far as they know. So she's like, oh my god, yay, I'm gonna waitress for his table, and everybody else in Merlotte's is like, oh, like they're not excited about it, okay? Of course Sookie's excited because she's just like always happy and bubbly and awesome. While she's waiting on Bill Compton, which that is the vampire's name that comes in, while she's waiting on him, she's also waiting on the rat rays, which are the rat rays or rat trays. No, they're rat rays. The rat rays, which are sitting one booth over Bill Compton, and she can hear their thoughts, and they're planning on capturing Bill in the parking lot and draining him for V. V is basically like a drug, okay, and V is vampire blood. So sometimes people will capture vampires and drain them and either sell it or take it because it makes you like super strong, it increases your drive, it makes you like hear and like see things, and like it makes your senses heightened. Basically, it's like being a vampire for a day, like kinda, not really, but kinda. It's also really, really intense high. So people will kidnap vampires and drain them and either sell it or use it. But anyway, she overhears the rat race thinking like, let's kidnap this vampire in the parking lot. Sookie hears what's gonna happen, and she decides that it's her responsibility to make sure it doesn't happen, which, girl, you don't even know this man, like you just met him, but she's such a goodie, like I don't want anything bad to happen, you know, and she is a fighter for vampire rights, so she follows them out to basically get in between all of it. She grabs a chain from the truck bed of someone in the parking lot and literally like chucks it at one of the rat rays, and it wraps around his neck and literally like, it's insane, okay? She saves Bill, essentially. This is also when we find out that silver affects them, like it weakens them, and it also burns their skin, but it doesn't take a lot. Like it can be like a really thin necklace, and if you just laid it over their neck, like they'd have to lay on the ground and not be able to get up. So it's like weird, but it's just important to know. It's also important to note that there's a stray dog that hangs around the bar that also gets involved in this whole little mix-up to try and like make sure Suki's okay. Amidst all this, Suki tries to read Bill's mind and finds out that she can't. So it's kind of like a reverse Twilight moment where, you know how Edward couldn't read Bella's thoughts, but he could read everybody else's? It's like that. So Suki can read humans, but she can't read vampire thoughts, and it has something to do with the fact that they're dead and they don't have like brainwaves, so that's why, but she can't hear vampire thoughts. And then there's this intense moment where Bill's like, Suki, like, what are you, you know, and she's like, I'm a waitress, duh. A waitress second mind read. By the end of the first episode, Tara gets hired at Merlotte's because she loses her job in the beginning of the episode. She gets hired at Merlotte's. Everybody's working at Merlotte's. Everybody's together, okay? Which makes it really easy to film scenes. Also important to note, Tara is in love with Jason Stackhouse. Like, love, crushing since they were kids. Like, and he has never once noticed or like reciprocated the feelings. Jason is a huge player. Like, he shows up to Merlotte's after being with Maudette and literally tries to pick up Dawn, which is another waitress there. Like, he's just constantly playing and having fun, and like he never takes anything seriously. So after a long day of waitressing, Suki goes home, and that's when we meet Gran. I love Gran, okay? She's my favorite character. Like, I have a lot of favorite characters, but I love Gran. She is so sweet, and that's how we find out, like, why Suki's so sweet, because Gran raised her, and she is just the sweetest. She's all excited to hear about Bon Tom's first vampire, and Suki's excited to tell her. It's a whole thing. It's so cute. And then that night, she has a steamy dream about Bill. Okay, so the seed has been planted. She is interested. The next morning, breaking news via Gran's phone, I think, is when she via Gran's cell phone or her home phone. Maudette Pickens died. Okay, died. She was found strangled to death in her apartment. Now, if you remember, Maudette Pickens is the one that was just with Jason last night. So, put two and two together, who do you think did it? Who do you think the town's gonna think did it, okay? Jason. Maudette was what they call a fang banger, which is a term they use a lot in the show, but it's essentially a vampire groupie who likes to get bit and sleep with vampires and things like that. Later that day, while Jason's at work supervising his construction crew, Sheriff Dearborn and Andy Belfleur show up and bring Jason in for questioning, okay? So, while this is going on, Gran is asking Suki to ask Bill to come to her Glorious of the Dead, like, history buff group, because she's like, oh my gosh, Bill was alive during the war. He could share so much stories with us. Can you ask Bill to come to my history club? And Suki's like, of course I can. Of course. So, few other characters we meet briefly in the first episode. We meet Renee, which is Arlene's boyfriend. He has a very thick accent. That's important to know. Jason's best friend, Hoyt. Okay? Also works on the construction crew with him, and just all around Jason's best friend. Renee and Hoyt both work with Jason on the construction, and so does Lafayette. That's like another job he has when he's not cooking at Merlotte's. Anyways, at this point, it's dark outside, so you know what that means. Bill Compton is in Merlotte's, and let me just tell you, this man is so unattractive. Like, no offense to this man, I don't see it. I've never seen it. I can't like wrap my head around it. He just gives me the ick all around. So I wish they had picked someone else, but honestly, it's fine. Anyway, we have another moment where he's like, what are you? You're not human. And Suki's like, I'm a waitress. Anyways, Suki tells him to meet her at the back of the bar after her shift because she needs to ask him for a favor. The favor being, can you come to my grandma's history club? Okay. So she needs to ask him about a favor, and he agrees to meet with her after her shift. Well, Sam very aggressively and very annoyingly grabs Suki's arm, drags her to the back room, and is like, you're being stupid, for getting involved with a vampire. And he's like yelling at, like, I was scared, and I was on the other side of the screen. I was so scared. Anyway, he makes Suki cry, which one thing about me is, you're not gonna make Suki cry, okay? I will hit you. I hate when Sookie cries. And she's so sweet, she doesn't deserve it. Anyway, he makes Sookie cry, and every time, this is also important to note, but like every time she hears Sam's thoughts, they're very sweet. Like everyone else in the town is very raunchy and gross, and when she listens in on Sam, it's always just like, she's so pretty, she's so warm, she smells so nice, like it must be so hard for her being able to hear people's thoughts. Like it's really sweet, but then like out of nowhere he snaps and gets really mean like he just did. Okay, so after her shift, everyone leaves and she goes to the back of the bar to meet Bill. And she's like waiting and Bill's not coming, and Sam's like, do you want me to wait with you? And she's like, no, it's okay, just go. Sam leaves and it's just her by herself waiting for Bill. So I'm like, Bill, where are you? Well, Bill doesn't show up, but the rat rays do, and they start kicking the ever-loving out of her. They literally beat her to a near death, like so bad. Okay, even the stray dog shows up to try and like help, and he ends up just getting kicked like off. And then Vampire Bill zooms in and saves the day, feeds Sookie vampire blood to heal her, but like literally she was on the brink of death before he showed up, so he's not getting any points from me. Jason is sitting at the sheriff's office being shown a video of him and Maudette Pickens doing the nasty, and in the video he chokes Maudette and she passes out, and he thinks that he killed her and he takes off. But so this entire time, Jason thought that he accidentally choked Maudette while they were doing it. And then the video continues and Maudette wakes up and she starts laughing like she played a joke on him. So Jason's sitting in the sheriff's office going, oh my god, like I actually didn't kill her. Like she was just messing with me. Sheriff Andy basically thinks like maybe you staged this on purpose so that it would make us think you didn't do it. So he's still a suspect, but basically Jason's now like, oh thank god, like I didn't kill her. I thought I did and I didn't. So now that we know Jason basically didn't kill Maudette, that's the assumption. We also learn more about Tara's situation with her mom, Letty Mae, who is an alcoholic. We don't get to see her dad or meet her dad. I don't even think they talk about her dad, but Letty Mae is not a good person, okay? So Jason gets released from the sheriff's department because of the video and goes to Dawn's apartment for a little comfort, if you know what I mean, okay? So he's at Dawn's. After Bill saves Sookie's life, he also agrees to go to her grandma's glorious dead meeting, so that's sweet. And the next morning when Jason wakes up next to Dawn, he sees a vampire bite on her, and then we find out that Dawn is also a fangbanger, and Jason doesn't like fangbangers. It basically turns him off. Like the moment he finds out he's with a girl and she also does it with vampires, he's like, ew, like he can't do it. So that's important. Also throughout this series there's clips of the news like playing on the TV screens and stuff, and it's so funny because it's literally like Fox News and CNN, and it's just gibberish and it's so funny. But it's like Fox News is anti-vampire and it's like God hates fangs, and CNN is like pro vampire rights and like vampires are human, basically. Like it's just funny. So there's a scene between Sookie and her gran where Sookie says, I don't think Jesus would mind if somebody was a vampire, and Gran says, I don't either, honey. Like, which just goes to show exactly where their mindset's at when it comes to vampires. But breaking news from Gran's landline, okay? The rat rays were killed by a tornado. So random, considering it's not even tornado season. Anyways, so Sookie goes to investigate this like tornado that came out of nowhere, and basically it's shown that like it was a staged tornado. Someone made it look like a tornado, and who do we think did it? Who do we think? Raise your hand if you know who it is. Yeah. Okay, it was Bill. Bill basically made a fake tornado to kill the rat rays for what they did to Sookie, which is kind of cute, I'm not gonna lie, but he still gives me the ick. Bill comes over to Sookie's house to meet Gran and have like a little meet and greet, and Jason and Tara overhear that this is happening and invite themselves because they're nosy and they don't like vampires. So they also show up, so everybody's in the living room. There's so much like cringy pining coming from Tara towards Jason. It's kind of sad because he's like so dumb that he doesn't see it like that, and she's just starstruck every time he's in the room, and she's like googly eyes, and it's really annoying. But the meet and greet is also when we learn that vampires need to be invited into the house, and not by the owner, just anybody living there. Like with Vampire Diaries it has to be the owner, but with this show it's just anybody that's living there can invite them in. Another thing that's different from Vampire Diaries is that they can't fake eat food. Like in Vampire Diaries they'll fake eat a hamburger or whatever, or drink alcohol, but in this show they can only consume blood and like that's it. So there's no fake eating. Jason is obviously not a fan of Bill. He doesn't like fangbangers, so he's like, don't make my sister a fangbanger, basically. He does not like Bill. We also discover that Bill Compton was one of the first families in Bon Temps, so history stuff. Boring, but whatever. It's important for later. After the meet and greet, him and Sookie go for a walk, okay? And on this walk, we learn that vampire blood does a lot more than just heighten your senses, okay? It bonds people. So Bill gave Sookie blood to heal her. Now that he did that, he is now connected to Sookie forever. He will feel when she's in fear. He'll feel her emotions, her feelings. He can also find her. So if like she's in a dangerous situation, he knows exactly where she is and he can zoom to her. And that's how it is with every vampire human every vampire that gives a human blood. They're bonded. But it's only one way. Like Sookie can't feel anything towards the vampire, but the vampire can feel everything, can find her, and it's forever. It never goes away. And it only takes a drop. We also discovered that vampires can't glamour Sookie because Bill tries to glamour her and it doesn't work. So Sookie also can't be glamored. And glamour is basically like compelling or like mind control, okay? Also important to note, Bill moved into the house like right across the street from Sookie's. It was his original house when he was human, but it's just important to know, like proximity wise, that Sookie can literally run across the yard and like through a cemetery and be at his house. At the end of this lovely walk is when Bill goes in for a kiss. They kiss and then his fangs pop out and ruin the mood. So she's like, I think I want to go home now, which is so funny. But the next day we're back at Merlotte's and Jason is fooling around with Dawn, one of the waitresses. Tara's complaining about her job and a customer grabs Sookie's ass, and guess who steps in to save the day? Renee, okay? He literally like twists the guy's arm behind his back and is like, apologize to the lady. That's the wrong accent. But he makes the guy apologize, and like, let me just say, it's hot, okay? It's hot. Anyway, so later that night, Sookie goes over to Bill's house to give him a list of contractors that will come and work on his house at night because he can't be out during the day. Anyways, it doesn't really matter because when she shows up, Bill has company. He has 3 other vampires there that are trying to get him to join their nest. And a nest is basically like when vampires are anti-mainstreaming and they all get together and they're like primal and they capture humans and they feed on them and they like live like they should live or whatever. That's like their goal. But it's important to note that there are 3 of them. Also, we find out that if a vampire claims a human, like if they're like, she's mine, then the other vampires won't touch her. Okay, so Bill claims Sookie as his. Come to think of it, the nest thing doesn't come up later in other seasons. It's literally just this season. So Sookie and Bill are kind of doing this back and forth dance thing where Sookie's interested and then something happens, like the nest, and something scary happens, and then she's like, ooh, you know what? He's actually dead. I don't really know if I'm that interested. So they're kind of going back and forth. Meanwhile, Tara and Sam get drunk and have a little pity party by themselves because Tara can't have Tara can't have Jason and Sam can't have Sookie. So they both turn to each other for comfort and they end up banging, which I hate that the writers did this to us. I hate that they did this just in general. I hate it. I'm not a fan of it, okay? Also, Sam barks in his sleep, which is just important because it comes up so much, okay? But he barks in his sleep. So Tara goes back home the next morning and her mom ends up hitting her with a glass bottle, so she ends up at Lafayette's, which this is when we find out Lafayette is an entrepreneur, okay? He has multiple streams of income. He does cam work, construction, he works as a cook at Merlotte's, he deals drugs, he's also does prostitution, okay? Multiple streams of income. So this is important to know for multiple reasons because Jason shows up at his house asking for, well, first he asks for Viagra and then Lafayette laughs in his face because he's like, go to Walgreens. But basically he's like, I need something that's gonna help me keep going with Dawn because I'm having trouble now that I found out that she sleeps with vampires. So Lafayette gives him V, which I hate that Lafayette did that, and I also just hate that there's a subplot of Jason being a V addict. But anyway, Lafayette gives him V, which is such a bad idea. So before he went to Lafayette's house, he was at Dawn's, okay? Just important to note. Dawn doesn't show up for her shift, so Sam calls Sookie and is like, go get Dawn. I think she slept in. Sookie goes to Dawn's house to wake her up, and Dawn is dead in her bed, like dead, okay? And again, this woman, the last person she was with the night before, was Jason. So it's not looking really good for Jason. Because of this, they take Jason into custody, and he just got done being at Lafayette, so he has a vial of V with him, and instead of just dumping it or hiding it in the cop car, he drinks the whole vial, which if you know, but you can't just take a whole vial of V. He literally said a drop at a time, and he takes a whole vial. So he learns very quickly that an entire vial is very bad, and his thing gets incredibly swollen, and Tara has to take him to the hospital where they drain it multiple times. times, and you'd think he'd learn his lesson, but he doesn't, okay? Even though they end up letting him go because Tara shows up and gives him an alibi, and then she ends up having to take him to the hospital. So they let him go, but he's still like number one suspect. So Gran tells Sookie, you need to use your powers and figure out who this murderer is, because they're gonna put away Jason just to have someone to put away. So Sookie's like, I got you, Gran. I'm gonna start listening in on townspeople, trying to figure out who did it. So while listening, she finds out that Dawn and Maudette Pickens both went to Fantasia, which is a vampire bar in Shreveport that gangbangers go to meet vampires to have fun, okay? So she's like, we gotta go to Fantasia and see if we can figure out which vampire killed them, or if it was a vampire. So she asked Bill to go with her. Smart, okay, because she shouldn't go by herself. So Bill says, yeah, I'll go with you, but it's also basically a date. It's like their first date. So they go to Fantasia so she can listen to humans. This is where we meet Pam. She's at the front door. I love her. She's checking cards, but I love her so much. Oh my god. So we meet Pam, and then we meet Eric Northman, which is Pam's maker. So Pam is Eric Northman's progeny, and Eric owns the bar. Eric is tall and sexy, and Bill Skarsgård's brother, okay, Alexander Skarsgård. Anyway, fun fact, when I was watching this show and he took his shirt off for the first time, I immediately knew he was a Skarsgård because they have the same build, okay? I know my shirtless men. The moment he got naked, I was like, you are related to Pennywise. Anyway, Sookie meets Eric for the first time, and he owns the bar. He's also way older than Bill, like super old, okay? He's sitting on his throne with like his ugly long hair, which doesn't last for long, so don't get used to it. I hate it. But he sits in his throne. He's tall. He's sexy. I love him. And he's basically like, he's way older than Bill. He's a lot stronger than Bill. And he's also the sheriff of Area 5, which basically in the vampire rule system, there's kings and queens of the state, which are kind of like mayors or senates. And then under that, there's sheriffs of certain areas of the state. So he's sheriff of Area 5. And then within that, there's the magister, which is like the not the rule giver, but the punishment giver. So if you break a vampire rule, he's like, okay, here's your punishment. So that's kind of the system. It's not clear, but that's kind of the system. Anyways, you'll meet the magister later. So Eric summons Sookie over to his throne and Bill, and basically says, stop interrogating my customers, just ask me if you have a question and I'll answer it. And she's like, okay. So she asks them if they've seen Maudette or Dawn, and they say, yeah, like they come around here. And also Eric was like, I also sucked her blood. Anyway, during this, she hears someone in the bar talk about a raid that's gonna happen, like a cop raid, and she warns Eric. So Eric and Pam now know that Sookie has mind reading abilities. Okay, that's gonna come in later. So while all this is going on, Sam is rolling around in Dawn's sheets, like dead Dawn, the Dawn that died. He's literally in her bed, like rolling around like a cat, like smelling her sheets. That's all the information you get, because that's all the information we get when I'm watching it, okay? At this point, Sookie and Bill are not a thing because Sookie's like, he doesn't think like me and he's dead, which fair. And on their way home from Fantasia, they get stopped by a cop and he glamours him, which she's just like, I don't know, not a fan. Gran plans a meeting at the church for the townspeople to meet Bill and ask him questions and try and get more comfortable with vampires being in town, because she's a saint, okay? So Jason takes more V. This time, Lafayette shows him how to do it correctly. Still not a fan. Still hate that he is on V, but it's happening. So Sam overhears that Sookie isn't going out with Bill anymore and decides this is his time to shoot his shot. So he swoops in, asks her if she wants to accompany him to Gran's town meeting, and she says yes. Gran is single-handedly trying to convince the town that vampires aren't bad, and honestly, it's really cute, and I love her for that. Okay, also I need to stop hunching because I look like Dracula with this on while I'm hunching. So they show up. Jason shows up to the town meeting on V. Arlene brings her kids because they're really excited to meet a vampire. And Sam and Sookie come together and they sit by Tara, which Sookie has no idea that Sam and Tara have been doing it together, like low-key hooking up. She has no idea. So the energy is just weird, okay? Bill gets up on the podium, starts talking about war, starts telling stories, starts answering questions. He's winning the town over. By the end of it, they're like shaking his hand and taking pictures with him. So after Gran's meeting thing, Sam and Sookie go get a piece of pie. It's cute up until it all goes to hell, okay? They're kissing, and Sam like kind of wants to take it further. And Sookie is like, okay, hold on, because I just can't go kissing one guy to the next. And Sam's like, huh? You kissed him? What else did you do with him? And first of all, none of your business, which is is literally what Suki tells him. She's like, it's none of your business, like, what I do with who. And she's like, you didn't have sex with him, did you? And she's like, first of all, she didn't. But first of all, none of your business, okay? But he gets so upset, like crazy, scary, mad, in her face, like slamming the car right behind her. Like, it's scary. So he's like, let me just take you home, whatever. And she's like, no, I'm not getting in the car with you. Crazy. I'm calling a cab, which smart, okay? And then we get a little flashback of how Bill became a vampire. It's not important in this season, but essentially he was stranded. He knocked on a door for help. The woman who lived in the house ended up being a vampire and turned him. It's more for season 2. But when Suki gets home from her date with Sam, she walks in and she finds Gran on the kitchen floor, covered in blood, dead. The way I was shocked. I can't believe they killed Gran, especially so soon, like halfway through the season. I love that woman with all my heart, and I think that's why they did it. But anyway, because Bill and her are connected, he senses her fear when she sees Gran, and he rushes over to the house. So now it's Suki and Bill in the house with Gran's dead body, and then Sam shows up to make sure Suki made it home safe. And he sees the image and is like, oh my god, what happened? And they start fighting. Anyway, poor Suki can literally hear everybody's thoughts, like the coroner, the sheriff, all of them that are there. She can like hear them, and they're blaming her for getting involved with vampires, and they're like, Gran should have never done that meeting, someone killed her because they were mad, like it's a whole thing. So Sam blames Bill for Gran dying. He doesn't think he killed her, but he blames him because Gran made that meeting for him, which resulted in her death, at least in his mind, okay? So, rip Gran. Sam calls Jason to tell him that Gran is dead, and Jason's too busy on V and having some random girl he picked up from Merlotte's that he doesn't answer the phone. So he has no idea that Gran's dead at this point. Suki tells both her boyfriends, Sam and Bill, to leave so she can clean up the blood because Gran took a lot of pride in her home. Everybody gets kicked out. The next day, everyone in town comes over for essentially what's like a wake, and they all bring a bunch of food, but honestly it just sucks because Suki can hear everyone's thoughts. She can hear like all the town gossip and just trying to like, some people are like, I wish I got here sooner. I wonder if this is where it happened. Like just stuff you don't need to be hearing when you're grieving, okay? Meanwhile, Jason shows up to work the next day, and his crew is like Renee and Hoyt. They're like, what are you doing here? Like, and he's like, what do you mean, what am I doing here? Like, I know I'm late, but I'm at work. And they're like, oh, you don't know? Your Gran's dead. And he, instead of acting normal, he's on V. So of course he's not acting normal. He runs home, barges into the house, goes right up to Suki's room and hits her across the face and says, it should have been you. So it literally takes Tara getting in between him and Suki for like, and he's yelling. I mean, like, he hits her across the face so hard she falls onto the bed, and he's like, it should have been you. He's so... Anyway, Tara gets involved and kicks him out, then kicks everybody out. She's like, everybody get out of the house, which, slay. Okay, this is the only time she gets points in this season for being a good friend. The next morning at the funeral, we meet Uncle Bartlett, he was invited by Jason to the funeral, and Suki's like, why did you invite him? Because he was excommunicated by Gran after Gran found out that Uncle Bartlett was inappropriate with Suki. So he's a PDF file. We don't like Uncle Bartlett. But Jason is like, he has a right to be here, which I don't think he knows what happened between them, because I feel like if he knew, he wouldn't be saying that. But Suki doesn't tell him. She's just like, you don't know what you're talking about, basically. At the funeral, when Suki gets up to talk, she basically just gets overwhelmed by all the stuff that people are thinking, and she just tells the whole town to shut the fuck up, and then she takes off running, which it's one of my favorite scenes, so love that. Letty Mae, Tara's mom, gets in front of everybody and says some sweet things about how Gran took care of Tara when she couldn't, which is sweet. But after the funeral, she tells Tara that she has a demon, and that is why she abused her. It wasn't the alcohol, it was the demon. So because of that, Tara goes to Sam for comfort, and Suki tells Sam she wants to be alone. So Sam goes to Tara for comfort, and they end up doing it again. I don't like them being together, so we're moving on. That night, Suki puts on a white dress and runs to Bill's home and loses her V card, as well as lets him bite her. So now she has a bite mark on her neck. After the events of that night, Bill and Suki are taking a bath, and Suki tells Bill about Uncle Bartlett and everything he did and why she hates him. And this is important because Bill takes this information and kills Uncle Bartlett. Like, he's in a wheelchair, so he basically makes it look like he fell into the river or the creek or something, and the gators chew him up. Like, And Suki has no idea until I think it's like season 2 when they tell her that Uncle Bartlett died. But still, like, he doesn't tell her. He just goes and does it, which I do like that about him, is that he doesn't do things and then like go to Suki for points. He just does them. The rat race, tornado, and now Uncle Bartlett being pushed in the creek. Like, he just anyways, he just does these things, so that's kind of nice. Jason runs out of V and tries to get some from Lafayette, but Lafayette's like, dude, I watched you beat your sister. You can't handle V. I'm not giving you any more. So he goes to Fantasia with the hopes of finding someone to, like, get V from, okay? And that's when he ends up finding Amy, which is a girl who says she has V, and she's also incredibly annoying, and I hate her so much. Meanwhile, Letty Mae tells Tara she needs $445 to exorcise her demon, okay? The demon being an alcoholic, okay? When Suki gets home from Bill's house, she catches Jason stealing grand silver to sell to get V, and Jason sees the bite mark on Suki's neck, and he's like, nothing but a fangbanger. You saved it all this time just to give it to a vampire. And Suki says, he doesn't hit me, which is more than I can say for you. Period. No, because she's right. Like, she's right. Like, she's right. Suki goes to work with a scarf around her neck to hide the bite mark, but it doesn't take long for Sam to rip it off of her neck. And I mean rip, like, it's dramatic. He rips it off her neck in front of everybody, and he calls her a damn fool, okay, for doing it and letting him bite her in front of the whole town. But you know what Suki does? This is why she's my favorite character. She turns to the town and she goes, yeah, I had sex with Bill, and it was great. I loved every second of it. Like, you know what? Stand on that. Don't hide it. Don't put a scarf on. So events take place that basically convince Tara to take her mom to go get exercise. And they go to this trailer in the middle of the woods, and they meet this woman named Miss Jeanette, who performs like scary witchy magic on the mom, scary ritual stuff to get rid of Letty Mae's demon for $445. Okay? Back at Merlotte's, the nest of vampires shows up. The one I talked about earlier, the 3 of them. They show up and they start causing trouble. Sam tells them that they need to leave. You need to leave. Basically exactly what he does. And anyways, Bill senses Suki's fear, shows up, and agrees to join the nest if they leave Merlotte's alone. So while all of this is going on, Jason's doing V with Amy. Unimportant, but that's where he's at. Also, Miss Jeanette gets rid of Letty Mae's demon. After that, she tells Tara, you have a demon in you too, and that's why you're angry all the time, and you can't keep a boyfriend, and your friends and you are always fighting. And of course, her demon is like $800 to get rid of. So Tara's like, yeah, whatever, I don't believe you. Now, a couple of rednecks from Merlotte's, after this whole thing that happened with the nest and everybody coming in, they decide that they're going to go to the house where the nest is staying and catch it on fire. Now, it's important to note there are 3 of the vampires, and if you remember, Bill said he would go with them and join their nest if they left the town alone. So now there should be 4 people there. Well, the rednecks burn the house down, and when Sheriff and Suki show up to the burnt up house, they find 4 bodies. So that's 3 of the nest vampires, and what Suki assumes is Bill, because he's not answering his phone, he's not responding, she doesn't know where he's at, and last she heard, he went with them to their nest. So like, in her mind, Bill's dead. The exorcism that Letty Mae had worked, and she stops drinking, she starts cleaning, she starts making breakfast for Tara. All is right, okay? Also, something silly, funny happened. Andy and Terry, which Andy Belfleur, the deputy, and Terry, which is his cousin and someone who works at Merlotte's. He's a cook at Merlotte's, and he's a veteran who has PTSD. That's really all you need to know about him for this season. But they're out fishing, and they see Sam Merlotte running butt naked through the woods. They're both just like, did we just see Sam run butt naked through the woods? And so the next day, Terry goes up to Sam and is like, hey, do you, like, on your free time, do you run naked through the woods? Because I'm pretty sure I saw you running naked through the woods. And Sam's like, nope, never done that before. Maybe you're seeing things. And poor Terry's like, yeah, it wouldn't be the first time that, like, I've seen things because of his PTSD. So he basically gaslights Terry into thinking that he didn't see him or he saw someone else. So anyway, funny. So Suki's mourning the loss of her dead boyfriend in the cemetery when Bill's hand reaches up from the ground and grabs her because he's not dead. He just went to ground for the day because he basically, Sookie warned him that like things were going bad, and so he decided to just go to ground in the cemetery instead of at home, and just in case. So he's fine, okay? Jason brings Amy to Merlotte's, and she's so annoying. She's like a vegan hippie addict that just spews words out of her mouth over and over, and Jason's too dumb to know what she's saying. So the whole time, Jason's just like, you're so smart and you're so awesome. Like, I hate it. Also, the writers of the show hate me so much because they give Amy a job at Merlotte's to replace Dawn as the waitress. So, yeah, okay? I'm upset, and I almost unplugged my mic. That's how upset I am. Sookie agrees to babysit Arlene's kids that night, and there's cute moments with Bill because they love vampires. And also, while Arlene is out on a date with Renee and her kids are being babysat, Renee proposes. So now we are planning an engagement party, which I love when there's some party planning in a show. So Tara and Sam are still hooking up, but every time they finish hooking up, they end up fighting. Like, it's just not working out. Andy has also shifted his focus as the main suspect for the murders to Sam, because Sam, for one, he was running naked through the woods. And when he asked Sam, hey, were you running naked through the woods? Sam was like, you know what? I'm from my family. They were nudists. And, you know, sometimes I just need to run naked through the woods. So Andy Belfleur goes to check into his story and finds out that Sam doesn't exist outside of Bon Temps. Like, he basically doesn't have a history. So he's suspect number one. Eric shows up to Bill's to ask for a favor, and really he's giving him an order because as a sheriff he can do that. He needs Sookie's mind reading powers to help him back at Fantasia. So meanwhile, Jason and Amy ran out of V, so they followed Lafayette to find where he's getting his V, which we find out is from a gay vampire named Eddie, who he sleeps with in order to get V from. Well, they kidnap the vampire. They kidnap Eddie. Jason and Amy kidnap Eddie, take him back to Jason's basement, and tie him up. Okay? This is important. Back at Fantasia, tall, sexy Eric Northman is asking Sookie to read the minds of his employees and figure out who's been stealing money, okay? She finds out that it was a vampire, and it's the vampire that works as a bartender at the club, and he's standing behind her when she finds out, so he launches for her, which forces Bill to get in between them and kill Long Shadow, which is the bartender's name. He kills him. Now, it's a crime for a vampire to kill another vampire, especially to save a human. So, because of this, Bill has to go in front of the Magister and meet his fate. Now, this can be fangs being pulled out, which grow back after a couple years. This can be being chained in a coffin covered in silver for like 10 years. This can be the true death, which is a stake to the heart. So, but Bill's punishment is that he has to become a maker or sire another vampire in order to replace the vampire that he killed. So Jessica, 17-year-old Christian teenager, gets kidnapped, thrown in front of him, and is basically like, you need to turn Jessica in order to fulfill your punishment. So he turns Jessica. I love Jessica, by the way. We also later find out that she was being abused by her dad, and she was really, really sheltered. So when she becomes a vampire, she's like, oh my god, like, no more rules, like, no more belt, like, oh my god, I can do whatever I want, which is really hard to control. So this entire time, Bill is not at Bon Temps. He is dealing with this. He's at the Magister. He is turning Jessica. He's dealing with teaching Jessica how to be a vampire. So he's not around, and that's important. So while this is going on, someone's messing with Sookie, okay? They killed her cat. They tied it to the ceiling fan, so that's also important. And while all this is going on, Jason is just doing V and having sex with Amy and drinking from Eddie, the gay vampire, in the basement. Okay. Also, Arlene is planning her engagement party in the parking lot at Merlotte's, so everyone is working on it together. It's really sweet. While Bill's away seeing the Magister, before he leaves, he goes to Sam and he's like, listen, I have to go for a couple days. I don't know how long I'm gonna be gone. Can you take care of Sookie? Just watch over her. And he's like, of course. Okay. While this is all going on, Tara decides she wants to get the exorcism to get rid of her $800 demon. So Sam is like, here's $800. He wants her to get better so that they can be together. So he gives her $800 to go get her demon exorcised. Well, while this is going on, mind you, this is right after Bill's like, hey, take care of Sookie, and leaves. While this is going on, Tara and Sam start making out, and Sookie walks in on them. So Kat is out of the bag, Tara and Sam are hooking up, and now Sookie knows it. So because of this, Sookie leaves work early, rushes home, and she decides that she's going to stay at Bill's house because she feels safer there when he's not in town. So she's alone, she decides to stay at Bill's, and the stray dog I told you about earlier shows up to the house, and to keep her company, crawls in bed with her, and it's really cute. So middle of the night, Sookie's like, dog, you're on my feet, like, can you move? And she sits up, and who's at the end of her bed? Not the dog. Guess who's at the end of her bed? A butt-naked Sam Merlot. Yep. A butt-naked Sam Merlot is sitting at the end of her bed. Surprise! Sam Merlot is a shifter. He can shift into any animal as long as he has a live animal to go off of. So there is a stray dog that hangs out. So there is actually a dog somewhere, but he based his shift off of the dog so that he could protect Sookie. So if you think back at all the times the dog showed up, that was him. While this is going on, Jason starts to feel a little guilty about holding Eddie hostage in the basement and decides to start sneaking him True Blood. Amy finds out. It's a whole subplot I really don't care about. I hate Amy, but that's kind of what's going on. So we learned some more Sam lore. Shifting is hereditary, and he was adopted. So he doesn't know who his real parents are, and his adopted family Irish goodbyed him when he was 14. So when he was 14, he shifted into the family dog, and when he got home from school, his entire family had packed all their stuff and left. So he was literally Irish goodbye by his adopted family. So at 14, he was left on his own. So he's been fending for himself for a while. And that is why when Andy Belfer looks in his past, he can't find anything on him because he doesn't have anything on him. Also, Sookie's upset that Sam didn't tell her sooner because Sookie told Sam about her mind reading, so she's like, I don't know why you wouldn't tell me. Also, we made out and almost went further, and you weren't going to tell me that you can turn into a dog. Like, she's mad. So back to Tara. She has her exorcism, pays $800. Awesome. She's happier now. She's not angry, okay? She decides to go get food with her mom. They go out and they eat, and on their way home, her mom's like, we should stop and get Pepto. So they stop at Walgreens. Her mom waits in the car. She goes in to get Pepto, asks one of the workers there, hey, where's the Pepto? And the worker turns around, and guess who it is? It's Miss Jeanette. It's the woman who's been giving them the exorcism. So it was all a lie. She conned them to get money to pay for her kid's medicine. And Tara is so upset. So Tara decides not to tell her mom because it's working for her mom. This like lie, this faith. So she's not going to tell her mom what she found, but Tara's back to being angry because she thought she was healed and obviously it was all fake. Anyways, it's time to party. Arlene's engagement party is tonight. Everyone's dancing, having fun, having a good time. Renee dances with Sookie because she came alone. It's really sweet, and he's like, you deserve better than Bill. It's a whole thing. She gets a chance to talk to Sam about everything, and it kind of gets a little clearer. Like, she's a little less mad because Sam's like, this is exactly what I was worried about. Like, you being mad at me is why I didn't tell you. Whole thing. Sarah shows up drunk because of everything that happened, and she says something mean to Sookie, and then she leaves. Also, a lot happens at this party. Lafayette confronts Jason and is like, you need to stop running your mouth about where you got the V because now my supplier is missing. But he doesn't put two and two together that Jason is the one who took his supplier. He just thinks that Jason was running his mouth and someone found out, followed him, took Eddie, okay? He also says, you need to stop running your mouth because if vampires find out I'm selling V, they're gonna kill me, okay? Also at the party, Sookie goes inside to get ice, and the killer, the literal killer, starts chasing her inside Merlot's. It's dark, everybody's outside partying, and literally she's being chased, and the only thing that she sees is a flash of a memory of another waitress being strangled. And it's not a waitress from Merlot's, it's a waitress from a different like pie diner like an hour away. So Sam shows up just in time and the killer takes off. So she's consoled by Sam. She tells Sam what she saw, and they decide that they're gonna go on a road trip to the diner of the girl that she saw in the memory and try and figure out who the killer is. So Tara drunk drives after the party, crashes her car, and ends up in jail. And Amy and Jason argue about what to do with Eddie. They're screaming at each other, and then Amy just stakes Eddie and he blows up and he turns into goo and guts go flying everywhere. So now they're cleaning that mess up. Rip Eddie, okay? So Sam and Sookie go on this road trip. They end up at a diner and they talk to a local, and the local says, oh yeah, that waitress was Cindy. She was killed and they never found her killer, but the main suspect was her brother, Drew Marshall. He took off shortly after she died, so everybody thinks he did it, but they have no idea where he is. So they go to the sheriff's office in that town and they say, hey, we need everything you have on Drew Marshall. She convinces him to fax over the information to to the sheriff and Andy Belfleur in Bon Temps, but he won't give them the information. So that's going on. The fax machine prints over at Bon Temps, and the paper just gets put in a stack and no one ever sees it. So all of that was really for nothing, other than the fact that now Sam and Sookie know that Drew Marshall is most likely the killer, but we don't know a Drew Marshall. We've never met Drew Marshall, so like, how is that helpful for us? Jason makes Amy give up her V after what happened with Eddie. He's pissed about it, so he's like, no more V, we're done. She convinces him to do one more V trip. It's basically like a shroom trip. They do one more V trip together, and it's really one more for Amy because Jason wakes up after their trip on V and Amy is strangled to death in bed next to her. So Jason assumes that it has to be him because this is the third woman he has slept with and literally they've died. So he calls 911 on himself, turns himself in as the killer, and assumes he's just doing these killings and not remembering them because he's stupid. While all this is going on, Bill is still teaching Jessica how to be a vampire, and he's not doing a good job because she's a sheltered teen who's just been given like immense power, but he's not in town. Letty Mae shows up to jail and tells Tara, I'm not bailing you out, and you need to learn the hard way, which is insane coming from her because Tara has done so much for her, bailed her out multiple times, cleaned her vomit up, like, and so that severs their mother-daughter relationship. Bill's having a lot of trouble with Jessica and needs to go back to town because he's worried about Sookie, so he decides that he's gonna try and pawn Jessica off on Eric and Pam. Like, he literally shows up to Fantasia with her and is like, please take her, like, I can't do this, I need to go home, like, she's so hard to handle. And Eric agrees, but for a price. He basically says that, like, you owe me, so we'll find out about that later. But meanwhile, a random woman shows up. Her name's Mary Ann, shows up to the jail and takes Tara home with her, basically. She's like, I give people second chances. She's more of a character in season 2, but they introduced her in the end of season 1. After the road trip that Sam and Sookie took and all the information they got on Drew Marshall, they're sitting at Sookie's couch and they're watching TV and they're talking and they start kissing, and of course that's the perfect time for Bill Compton to show up and ruin the vibe. So he shows up, starts a fight with Sam, the man that is protecting her, that he asked to protect her. They start a fight, they're fist fighting. Sookie rescinds his invitation, which magically whooshes him out of the house, and she's like, leave me alone. You up and left and didn't say a damn thing to me, and now you want to come up in here and fight Sam, like the man who's been here? No. Jason is sitting in a cell. He's giving away his truck, his lucky jacket. He's like, I'm going away for a long time. Here's all my stuff. And Tara is at Marianne's giant mansion, okay? There's a bug flying around here. And anyway, so we don't really know what's going on. She's like, it's really like too good to be true. She's just like in a mansion and she doesn't have to pay anything, and someone takes her phone and like she can't communicate with anybody, but she doesn't really care. And she meets Eggs, which is another character you really don't need to know that much about. He plays guitar. That's all you need to know. He's a season 2 character. And then we get a weird shot of Marianne just like sitting, meditating in the yard and like vibrating violently, so she's obviously some type of supernatural. There's a gnat or something flying and it's driving me crazy. This is where it all comes together, you guys. We're about to find out who the killer is. Think of your guesses. Let me know who you think it is in the comments. So Sookie is waiting tables at Merlotte's and she gets overwhelmed by all the thoughts of like people talking about how her brother's a murderer and all this stuff, so she decides to leave work early. She tells Sam like, I'm leaving, whatever. She goes out to her car won't start. Renee shows up and is like, you need to ride home, like I can go home with you and wait with you until Sam's off work and like whatever. And she's like, okay. So on the drive home, he's like, can you really hear what I'm thinking? And she's like, yeah. And another thing, your thoughts don't have an accent. Isn't that funny? And he's like, yeah, that's weird. That's weird that my thoughts don't have an accent. It's almost like I'm probably faking my accent. So while they're driving home, Arlene's kids find a box in the garage. It's Renee's toolbox full of videotapes of Maudette and the vampire, Maudette and Jason, a videotape on Cajun dialect coaching, like for his accent. And Arlene puts together that the killer is Renee, okay? At that time, Renee is in Sookie's house, okay? The killer is inside the home. The killer is inside the home. Back at Merlotte's, Renee left his work vest on one of the booths, so Sam is like, oh, I'll go put it in Lost and Found. And when he picks it up, he smells the scent that he smelled on Dawn's sheets Remember when I told you he was rolling around in Dawn's sheets? Yeah, he picks up on the scent, immediately realizes Renee's the killer, takes off running towards Suki's house, okay? At Suki's house, Renee's in the kitchen, and Renee starts thinking, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it. And Suki's listening, obviously, because she has no control over it. And then she gets a flash memory from Renee's head of him stabbing Gran to death because he was there to kill Suki and Gran was waiting up for Suki to come home, and he just ran into Gran and just started stabbing her. So Suki's terrible at hiding the fear on her face, and Renee immediately realizes that she knows, and Suki runs towards the shotgun, picks it up, but Renee's already taken the bullets out of the shotgun, so she butts him in the head with the butt of the gun. He falls to the floor and she takes off running through the cemetery. This scene's awesome because as she's running through the cemetery, she is literally seeing visions of Renee's past kills. So as she's running, it's like flashing to all the different kills that he's had, like Maudette, Dawn, all of them, and we get to see all that stuff. So she's literally running for her life, okay? Bill feels her fear, but it's the middle of the day, so you're like, he can't do anything. Wrong. He gets out of his hidey hole and starts walking across the lawn towards Suki and burning to a crisp, like just charring. He doesn't burst into flames, but he just like slowly starts cooking, kind of like if you put a marshmallow on a bonfire for too long. Sam gets to her house, picks up on her scent, runs in the cemetery, okay? Sam attacks, so Renee's beating on Suki when Sam shows up, so Sam attacks him in dog form. Then Renee turns his attention towards Sam, kicks the dog form of Sam. Sam turns into naked Sam instead of a dog. And Renee is like, what the hell? And he keeps kicking naked Sam. While Renee is busy doing this, Suki picks up a shovel, hits him in the back of the head. Renee falls to the ground, and Suki lifts the shovel, slams it down on his neck, and basically decapitates him. Okay, so Renee is dead. Thank God. After all of this, Sam and Suki look up from all this, and they just see a toasted marshmallow version of Bill walking across the lawn and like slowly, and then he just falls over and they're like, oh my God, Bill. So that accomplished nothing. All that did was basically make Sam have to pick him up and bury him in the dirt so that they can heal him. So after all that, they bury Bill so he can start healing. Suki is all beat up on her face. She's bruised. She's hopped up on pain meds. Arlene shows up at her house, bawling, crying, apologizing, makes Suki promise to look inside the head of anybody she ever meets ever again so that this never happens again. It's very cute. Like, Arlene's just bawling and it's like bringing her flowers. She's like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's so cute. So Tara and Sam are sharing a moment on Suki's porch while she's healing, and Marianne shows up to pick Tara up, and Sam recognizes her, and he's like, what the hell are you doing here? And Marianne looks at him and goes, you really thought I wasn't gonna find you? You silly, silly dog. So Marianne obviously knows he's a shifter. There's a lot more on that in season 2. Jason gets let go, obviously, because he wasn't the murderer. And Lafayette gets kidnapped while taking the garbage out at Merlotte's. All of this is happening at the same time. We don't know who kidnapped him, but he is kidnapped. Bill's day in the dirt ends up healing his charred skin, and he is back to looking like he normally does. And Suki is re-invited him into the house. Let bygones be bygones, and they're all just happy together again, okay? Gag me. I hate her with Bill. Bill is not good for her. Then we get a 2-week time skip, okay? Vermont legalizes vampire marriage. Lafayette hasn't shown up for work in 2 weeks and hasn't answered anybody's phone calls. Terry and Arlene are being really cute and flirty, and he's a sweetheart. I love him. This is kind of like they start their relationship a little bit, and then we get a little bit of an introduction into the Fellowship of the Sun, which is essentially MAGA, but God hates fangs, okay? And we get an introduction into this because Jason is sitting at one of their church gatherings. So awesome! Jason's being... Right. Jason's being picked up by Fellowship of the Sun Church and becoming a essentially vampire MAGA Republican. Awesome. More on that in season 2. Andy Belfleur starts drinking again. He's an alcoholic, I guess, which we didn't really know, but he's an alcoholic now. He feels shitty after basically locking up Jason and finding out he was the wrong guy, and he didn't catch Renee in time, and Renee almost killed Suki. So he's feeling guilt. He's drinking. He goes out to his car after, and there's a dead woman in his car. And you don't get to know who that woman is until season 2. And that's how season 1 ends, okay? Also, Eric brings Jessica back to Bill and is like, she's too much to handle, take her back. So Jessica's back with Bill. Okay, and that's the end of season 1. That is all of season 1. My camera's about to die. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you like this. I have another vampire media video if you like this. It's all about different vampire media. Check that one out. I'll link it in the description. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel to see more. I will see you in the next one. Love you guys. Bye.